All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. My guest this hour is Chuck Stansburge. He is the State Section 12 Director for MUFON in Texas. He has over 22 years of UFO phenomena investigations under his belt. And we are so happy to have Chuck with us tonight. And the two websites are very simple. The first one is www.mufon.com. And Chuck's website for MUFON Texas is meetup.com/Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. And Chuck Stansburge, welcome to the X Zone. How are you tonight, Chuck?
Well, thank you for having me. Doing pretty good. And how are you doing this evening?
You know, any better, and I just couldn't take it. I don't know. Today's just been a great day, and well, you know what? I get to talk to the greatest people in the world for 4 hours every day, and I've been doing this for 23 years, so I'm in a great mood tonight, Chuck.
Good.
Chuck, where did your interest in UFOs come from?
My interest really came from the first one that I saw when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I was sitting in my car. I had an old 52 Buick, by the way.
Good car.
And, oh yeah, big car, the tank. But I saw something coming up over the mountains towards the west, and I thought, what in the world is that? It's not a satellite, because satellites go from east to west back then. They don't go from west to east. And it came up towards above me, and then all of a sudden made a 90-degree turn going north. And I thought, wait a minute, that's not a plane.
Nope.
And then all of a sudden it just shot off towards the southeast real quick, like something scared it or shot at it or something. I don't know, but boy, it just took off. And I thought, wow, this is really something. Did I see what I thought I saw? So I started started looking at some of the magazines. Omni magazine was a big one at the time. And that's where I got a lot of interest from reading some of this stuff. Some of those stories I looked at in the Omni, I thought, I don't know about these, because some of them were really far out there. But then I went to the service, was in the Marine Corps, and talked to a few people in Okinawa and also Nam and also a few other places. Cuba, I was even stationed down there.
Wow.
And talking to some of the people about what they may have seen up in the skies and stuff. And some of the overseas in like Vietnam and around Okinawa, some of the pilots were coming back. They said, some of the fighter pilots, I should say, said, yeah, they've seen them, but they were told not by their seniors there in the camp, but they were told from Washington, D.C., you will not engage any UFOs of any kind. All they're doing is watching, just leave them alone.
So it's almost as if the higher brass in Washington actually knew about these UFOs. And so does this mean that these UFOs back then meant no harm to this planet? They were of no security risk?
No, they weren't of any security risk. I think what they were doing is watching the war, to see what was going on and how things were going and whatsoever. I don't know, but I know they were following them and watching them, even just standing, or I should say hovering, and watching a certain area, I guess. This is what I was told by a few people that was down there.
Chuck, where do you think these UFOs are coming from?
You name it, you probably got it.
Wow.
There's all kinds of different galaxies out there, not only ours, even though we have quite a few planets in this galaxy itself that are inhabited. And there are some that are in the outer parts of our galaxy and other galaxies that do make voyages here and there, and we do have some that are here that live right here on Earth, and some of the ones that are visiting us that are here now look just like you and me, and you'd never know it if you were sitting next to them in a restaurant or wherever, in a bar or something like that. You'd never know that they were there, that they were even alien. And I'm talking about the Pleiadians,
Wow.
the Nordics. There's a couple others that are humanoid just like us.
All right, Chuck, stand by. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. Exonation, Chuck Stansburge is our special guest this hour. He is the State Section 12 Director from MUFON, Texas. www.mufon.com is MUFON's main website. And for Chuck, www.meetup.com/Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. We'll be back on the other side of this brief commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't forget to sign our online petition at www.stopebolapetition.com. I'll be back. Don't go away. Exonation, Chuck Stansburge is our special guest this hour. He's State Section 12 Director for MUFON, Texas. And first of all, Chuck, thanks very much for coming on the show with us tonight. It's always great to talk to anyone from MUFON because you guys give 150% what you do, and great job, by the way.
I'd say about 200%.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bad Robbie. All right, I'll go 250. Do I hear 275? Do I hear 275? There we go. Chuck, well, what is the best case that you yourself have investigated?
Actually got a couple of them. One of them was an abduction case up north of Houston up there. A gentleman claims to have seen a craft that came close by, and he lives out almost in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And the road that goes in front of his house, he's got a lot of property behind it. And he said he come over the trees, and then all of a sudden it hovered, and he looked up, and there was a real bright light come at him. And next thing he knew, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But it was really interesting to hear him talk about some of the things he might have seen or thought he did, and also the mark that was on him. It was a triangle mark on his arm, and he says it's been there for about maybe 10 years.
Wow.
And I says, have you been abducted earlier in lifetime? And goes, oh, he said, yeah, I think so. But he wasn't real sure. This was a really interesting case, and I can't really say too much about it, but it just kind of almost floored me a couple of times the way he talked about what was going on. The other case was a mutilation that we had in Port Lavaca, Texas, and it was for Barbados sheep. The gentleman had been given about 29 sheep, I think it was, that, and he added to it for himself, and he wound up with a total of 52 sheep, and they started disappearing and being mutilated all of a sudden. And he was thinking it might have been predators or something like that, but some of the pictures I saw of what the sheriff's office took, they are not predators. Guarantee you, predators do not know how to do surgery.
What kind of surgery?
The females, the bottom part of the belly was cut like a big U,
Oh my gosh.
and peeled back, and then the belly was pulled out, like laid down very carefully, and they took all the reproductive organs, and that was it. The males, their also reproductive organs, the genital part was taken. These sheep, as cattle were, cattle has had a, I think it was about a 2-inch slice or an 1.5-inch slice, looked like in their neck area. These also had the same thing. And once you do that, they can bleed out very quickly. And there was very little blood anywhere at all. And there was a total of 52 he lost. And after we went down there, well, I found out about it by somebody saying go to the E section of the newspaper, and it's about the third page, go down about halfway on the right. So I checked this out real quick, and it was a little report from the sheriff's office down in Port Lavaca that they have no clue of what's going on, and they have no idea what's doing this because of the incisions or the cuts, you might say. And so I gave him a call, and he was so overexcited when I called. He said, "You guys want to come down here and investigate? You guys, I mean, he really got excited." And I said, "Well," I said, "I just found out about it." I said, "I will give my state director and our chief investigators a call and see what they say." So he said, "Okay, I'll be looking forward to hearing from you." So I let them know, and the next day I was supposed to have an interview with a person in down there in Galveston on a UFO sighting. And just as I was getting ready, I got a phone call that says, "Let's go. We're going to Port Lavaca."
Wow.
Okay, so I had to call this guy and say, "Sorry, got something else going on right now." So headed out to Port Lavaca, and I got there before anybody else did. And I set everything up, went out, talked to the sheriff's office, went there first, talked to the sheriff, and then talked to the investigator that took a lot of the calls. And I asked how many photos there are. And he said, "We got a bunch of them. I said, "Do you mind if I have a copy?" He's, "No problem." They went ahead and cut me a DVD off or a CD off with all the photos. And also all the paperwork that when this guy called in about somebody killing his sheep or mutilate him or whatever, I got the whole package. And I had that all set. Then I went out and followed the detective out. We went out to this guy's ranch, and this guy had one of these little four-wheelers that runs around. We got in it and started going all these different places where the mutilations were. And that's when I put all the flags up. I had everything all set up for them to when they got here that night. And the next morning we got there real early. We were there for 2 days. And they were trying to figure out any tracks, none. Any human tracks, none. Couldn't figure out how these are being done and why they're doing them, and they figured it might have been a cult. No, a cult does not do that. They will take one sheep and take off with it, and that is their sacrificial. Predators, no. Predators don't know how to do surgery.
Yeah.
These are so precise cuts and everything; they're just perfect. And besides that, predators would grab it around the neck and bite into it, that kills it instantly, and drag it to wherever their family is and let everybody eat. Or if they're by themselves, they'll drag it off and take what they want and leave the rest. But it was really interesting of what took place, and this is my second mutilation. The first one was up in Colorado, northeast, but it was a horse up there. But this one here was different. I mean, because it was sheep, and this guy has 7 goats there. 3 of them were white goats, little small white goats, little yearlings. Well, my tongue got twisted. Yearlings, and then you had 4 grown-ups, and they weren't touched. just the Barbados sheep. And every time he had one, every time they lost him, he would go buy 5 more, 4 female and 1 male, and within 2 weeks they're gone. And this all started around April of last year, up until October of last year.
Fascinating. Any witnesses? Any physical evidence? Any physical traces?
Not that I saw. I mean, I went through that whole area at least 2 or 3 times, checking everything. I even had my own video and took video of and pictures of all the area. And I didn't see any places to where anybody climbed over the fence, because you have 2 fences. One that's keeping the house and away from everything. Then you have another one about 30 feet away that goes all the way across, and there's two gates. And once you go through the second gate, you have a huge area. I mean, it's quite a few acres, but it's barbed wire on both sides, all the way down to the river, and all the way across the back where the river is. And if you walk up to the fence back by the river, it's a 4.5 foot drop straight down. So nobody could really come up there and climb up on that,
right,
even if they had a boat, and somehow got anchored right there and try to climb up. You'd still be seeing stuff maybe falling or some kind of clothes being flicked off with a barbed wire or something. I don't know.
So
but it was quite interesting.
But where the animal was, were there any footprints? Were there any impressions? Nothing.
No footprints, no paw prints of any kind that I saw. The morning that we got there was the freshest one. He had 3 that were left, 2 females and a male. And the one female was still laying there. The male and female were both gone, disappeared, just like in thin air. And by the time, of course, we got everything to check out over there that morning, I got there about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and already vultures were already picking at it. And I asked him, I says, would you mind covering that up for me? Sure. So he went ahead and covered it up so that nothing else can get to it right away. And but it's just, I don't know. It was kind of, that's something that really bothers me. How they do things.
Right.
As far as maybe nobody saw anything at night. Nobody saw any craft. Nobody saw anything coming in or heard anything, because it's desolate out there. So it's kind of hard to see. That your nearest house is about 4 blocks away, 5 blocks away, and who knows?
Did anybody report strange lights in the sky? Any electrical interference? Strange behavior of pets? Nothing.
Nothing. I talked to the sheriff's office. I talked to the police department in Port Lavaca about any call-ins of any kind of craft in the sky, unknowns or anything like this. The nearest Air Force base is up from there. It would be actually the Naval Air Station is down there around Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
Then you have the Air Force Base up there, San Antonio. So I checked with all those, and
nothing.
Nobody had any radar hits. Nobody had nothing.
Wow. Chuck, stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation, Chuck Stansburge is our special guest this hour. State Section 12 Director from MUFON, Texas. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Please visit www.stopebolapetition.com. Go there, sign your name, Everybody who signs sends a petition to the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, to the Minister of Public Safety here in Canada, Stephen Blaney, as well as members of Parliament. I don't care if you're in China. I don't care if you're in Taiwan. I don't care if you're in Malaysia. I don't care if you're in Australia. I don't care if you're in Russia or any other place where this show is broadcast worldwide. Let's make a difference, X-Zone Nation. If you would like us to help you set up one for your country, get a hold of me. Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. We would be more than happy to help any of our members of the X-Zone Nation do whatever we can, because I believe that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And in today's society, we don't need problems. We need solutions. My guest this hour is Chuck Stansburge. He is the State Section 12 Director for MUFON, Texas. For more information on MUFON, www.mufon.com. And you can check out Chuck's website at www.meetup.com/Houston/MUFON/meetup. I'm sorry, no, it's /Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. I'm going to do that one more time. www.meetup.com/Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. Sorry about that, Chuck.
No problem.
All right, buddy. How many members are there in your
Section?
Yeah.
Around 31.
My
32,
goodness.
including myself. The state of Texas has got quite a few members,
Mm-hmm.
and my section basically is the largest one, I think, as far as membership. Sometimes when I do my cases and I talk to the people about their sightings and stuff, at the end of the interview, we get to talking different things, and I'll kind of say something about MUFON, and what you can get, and do this and do that, and some of them have joined MUFON.
Really?
That way, yeah. I've gotten a few of them that way sometimes. I'm also a field investigator, of course,
Right.
State Section Director. I'm with the STAR team.
Now, what is a STAR team member?
The STAR team is a strategic group that, say, for instance, down here around, let's say, pretty close to Galveston, there's a pretty good area that there's nothing there on the west side. Say somebody sees a landing, a craft landing, then they call us or they call the PD or something like that, and they give us a buzz, say, hey, we got this going on. I have a bag right here in front of me, or behind my desk. It's full of everything. All I got to do is grab it, put my clothes on, I'm gone. We set up there. We hope to see it as it's landing or landed or taking off, one of the three. And we got to make sure about the radiation, and this kind of stuff. We have different things that we have to use, mark off the area, walk so far, check our radiation, and then if it gets a little bit too high, then we have to stop, mark it, that we can't go any further than that. If it's not very much at all, and we can get in towards the middle of the landing, per se, we take and see what's there. We start marking things off, how wide it is. I mean, there's so much that we have to do right away to get things set up, and take a look, see. Hopefully, sometimes, we would like to, if somebody hollers at us and says, hey, we got a landing right here, and we get there and it's still there, that would be nice. But you just never know. And we also do a lot of, sort of anyway, we do a lot of the abduction cases, the STAR team does. Most of the abduction case, a lot of the abduction cases we've had here in Texas over the last 3.5, 4 years, I've gotten. and I've done quite a few of those, and quite interesting. And but it's a team that to me I think is one of the best that we have, and we also have international type stuff that we take care of. As a matter of fact, we use the STAR team now is international, and instead of just U.S., it's international. And I have been getting cases from around the world. I've done one in Guam, Serbia, let's see, U.S. Virgin Islands, England, a lot of them in Canada. I'm also appointed the interim state director of Idaho.
Wow.
Until they can get somebody that'll take the position of state director.
How would you conduct an investigation where you can't actually go there and do the investigation in person? For example, how do you collect the evidence? How do you get the photographs? What happens
there? I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
What happens there is a lot of people, when they take photographs and stuff, they will upload them in the report.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't do it or they don't know how to do it, then when I have the case itself, usually I either talk with them on Skype,
I see,
and or on the phone, either way. And once I get all the information and everything, and I say, okay, I noticed you have pictures, but you didn't send them in. Well, I couldn't get them up to. I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, just put them on my email. I'll make sure they get up there. Okay, so that's how I get a lot of the photos, and I analyze them to see if they're real or not, and then I'll upload them, and I color code them. I do the embossing on them. As the couple of programs I have, I can work with something that see if they're real or not. And I've got one gentleman that used to be a member down here that lives in Chicago now. His wife was ordered by the company to go to Chicago because she was promoted, I guess. Anyway, he's a photographer, and he went to college for 4 years to take photography and how to do everything. He can take a photo and just tear it apart. And I send him some of that stuff right away, and he'll call me back real quick and say, "Hey, this is real, buddy," or "Oh, hell, this is fake," that kind of stuff. But it's really quite interesting what you find out from people, the different types of craft they see, what takes place, how excited they are at times. One lady up in Idaho, she was so excited that I had called her, and she just wanted to talk so much about what she saw. And she started getting a little paranoid, like, are they going to hurt me? Are they going to take me somewhere? I says, no, ma'am, they're not going to bother you. As if they wanted to bother you, they would have done it. But other than that, all you're doing is looking at one, and it stays there for a while. It takes off, and you just never know. If one comes close enough, you might wave at them, say hi. There's one gentleman that gave me a call about some men that were hunting in Idaho, bear hunting, and when they came back from bear hunting by the camper, they was in a pickup. They got out. They went inside the camper. One of them came back out. He went to get the food out of the truck, and he felt heaviness, like it was hard to breathe or something leaning on him, you might say.
Right.
And he took his flashlight and looked in the forest a little bit, and then he pointed it up, and he goes, "Oh, my goodness." And he says, "Guys, get out here and look at this." Because as soon as that flashlight hit that object, the three lights came on the corners. It was a triangle.
Wow.
And a big round one was like a ruby red color on the very center came on. And then the craft started going up. He said it wasn't no more than 300 to 400 feet above them. And they all stood there and watched it going towards the southeast, and very slowly, and went up over the top of another mountain and disappeared. And I even asked him if he had any experience as far as maybe lost time. He said, no. I called the guys out, and he said, we just watched it. And it just took off. And I said, wow, that's some experience.
Sure is. Tell me, Chuck, in all the years that you've been investigating UFOs, what type of physical evidence have you been able to collect?
Well, physical evidence?
Yeah.
Really, we haven't, I haven't anyway, had any real physical evidence. The only evidence I have is either seeing one in my own eyes or photos from people that have been taking them. The mutilation down there in Port Lavaca, the only real evidence we have there, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I don't care what anybody says. The photos that were taken by the sheriff's office, I started going through them to see if there's anything there, to see what I could find.
Right.
And one photo in mind when I first opened it up, I went, oh my goodness. And the day before, or that night, I should say, the night before that morning, that night, there was a big, huge thunderstorm, okay? And then it was sunny the next morning. Well, that's when he found the female sheep that had been mutilated. And the sheriff's office came right there right away. They took some photos. And when they took a photo of this one, I could see the belly laying out, and this and all that, just like I had it. And the tracks of the four-wheeler stopped because I looked I looked up towards the top of the photograph, and where the tracks were, it just stopped. And I looked again. I was, oh my goodness! There was a big circle, counterclockwise, the weeds laying down, and it was huge, and it was a nice little area. And there were a few other things that I happened to see as I enhanced it, and I went, no, you got to be kidding me. These guys had no idea. The sheriff's deputies had no idea what was there that was watching them do their job. There looked like one that was kneeling down or down on one knee, like up against next to a tree. Right behind those two little trees, there was another one standing there, and one off to the left. And on the right side, there's two little small trees that go up a little bit, and there is I don't know what you want to call it. Looks like a distortion of sense in that one little spot, like a doorway. And the only thing that I came up with, along with a couple other people that I know about, knows this kind of stuff. We talked about it. I showed them the photo. We talked about it again. And what we thinking is that was either a doorway into the ship that was still there, or it was a doorway going to the ship that is up above. And that's the only thing we could think of. And it was, I keep thinking about this sometimes, and every once in a while I'll get my DVD out and I'll take a look at that photo, and it just amazes me. And all the other photos, there's nothing like that in there, but just that one.
Son of a gun. So how do you explain something like that?
It's pretty hard to explain, especially when the PD, the sheriff's office, and everybody around there saying, "Oh, we think it's just predators. It's only predators. That's what this whole thing is. There's predators." They tried to say it was a cult, but no, there's no such things around there. They tried to say it was predators, but as I said before, predators either take it with them or devour what they can and leave the rest. They don't have the surgery knowledge.
Now, did a veterinarian or somebody from the Park Service take a look at the cadaver of the animal, and what were their comments?
Their comments, well, the one that we had, because the vultures have already got to it, they took it to one of them, and they didn't want anything to do with it. But the one in the picture, he went ahead and took the owner took that one to the veterinarians, and asked them to find out what's going on here and what made these cuts and stuff. You know what they told him?
No.
We don't want it. Get it out of here.
Wow.
So they don't. To me, that means they know what's going on, but they don't want to get involved.
Chuck, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Fascinating story. Chuck Stansburge is our special guest this hour. He's the State Section 12 Director for MUFON in Texas. www.meetup.com/Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. And if you'd like more information on MUFON, their main website is www.mufon.com. Chuck and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Exonation, Chuck Stansburge is our guest this hour, State Section 12 Director for MUFON in Texas. Once again, the website for MUFON is mufon.com, and if you'd like to contact Chuck, www.meetup.com/Houston-MUFON-meetup-group. First of all, Chuck, thanks so much for joining us tonight here on the X Zone. I've thoroughly enjoyed your visit with us. But as I was telling you during the commercial break, I can't understand the lack of enthusiasm or the lack of interest when it comes to certain officials, and in this case, where the veterinarians or even the U.S. Forest Service or the game wardens didn't want to do anything about it. You'd think by now that somebody would want to do something. After all, this is the death of an animal, its property. Is this all part of a cover-up?
I don't know if it's a cover-up or how they want to, if you want to call it that. It probably is by them. I don't know. I really can't say on that part, because someone might come back to me and say, "Hey, we ain't covering nothing up." Well, if you're not gonna talk about it or try to do the exercise of getting involved on this whole thing, then what would you call it? Other than just paying no mind, never mind. Yeah. Period. That's some people are like that, I guess. There's been some experiences going on from other people. I love listening to a lot of them. I've had my own experiences as well. A young lady that lives not too far away in another state, but her and her group, she used to be in MUFON, but her and her group went out to a case and literally ran into an ET. The craft went over the top of them, a triangle shape, and it disappeared over the trees, and everything kind of started getting heavy, they said, so they got scared and started running off. The owner of the property had a flashlight. He stopped suddenly. She ran right into him. And said, "What's going on?" And he had a flashlight. He put that flashlight right on that ET, little, probably about 2.5, 3, about 3.5 foot. And they just all took off real quick, jumped in the truck and took off. It just scared them to death, I guess. But I would have said, "Hi, how are you doing?"
Tell me, have you yourself ever been abducted?
I wouldn't say abducted, but I did volunteer.
You did?
Yes. I might have been taken when I was younger. because I did have a regression done by a very good friend of mine. He was a professor in Laramie, Wyoming, at the university there, because I would give him cases. I would give him cases of abduction people that he would go there and they would go there and talk to him. But he came by the house one day and he says, "Lay down," So he went ahead and put me under. And when I woke up, all I could remember was coming. I know I left the party that we were up in the mountains. A bunch of us guys and gals. We were seniors, and we were up by Echo Lake. And I was coming back down. I had just left maybe 40, maybe.
Chuck, we're going to have to speed this up. I've got about 30 seconds left.
Okay. Anyway, to finish that up, I saw this big old bright thing, and it just like brightened up, gone.
Wow.
And that was my first, I think, abduction. But after that, I volunteered last year.
All right, Chuck, we're going to have you back on to discuss this further. Exo Nation Chuck Stansburge has been my guest this hour. Chuck, take care of yourself. Thanks for joining us. And I'll be back on the other side of this news break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.